I guess here's the thing. The first question, whenever you start talking about Microsoft licensing, the first question that you have to ask as the organization goes is how critical is it to stay up to date? Okay, that's number one, and that has to be a corporate decision. And then the second one is how critical is it to keep everybody on the same platforms? So we've got companies who, like, they've got Office 2000 on some people's desktops, 2003 on a couple, 2007, 2010. So they're all over the bloody place. And a lot of companies had to do that owing to the economics of the situation. And if you really want to save money, the best way to save money is not to buy more software, is to buy it. OEM is always going to be cheaper. When you buy a computer and you buy Windows or Office with it, it's going to be cheaper in the long run if you're going to keep that computer with that exact configuration for years and years and years. Okay? If you're not, then it makes sense to go licensing. And unfortunately with Microsoft, fortunately with Microsoft, they have lots of different things. Like, I can do licensing, I'll pay it for 2 years. I'll do licensing and pay it for 3 years. I'll do licensing and pay it once a year. I'll do licensing and pay it monthly. I'll do licenses where I agree to upgrade everybody within the company. I'll do licenses where it's only going to be hit and miss.
But it seems like 60, just call it an extra $5, although you get $60 a year to get a full version of what, I don't know what Office is costing now, but it's got to be $300-$400 a year.
Yeah.
So it take a long time.
Well, for the $60 you're talking about for the...
Each computer. $5 extra to go with it. You just have exchange only. If you go with the other services, it's $5 more.
Well, to get to the Office, it's actually $14.
Oh, okay.
So this is the guy right here that includes the Office. Okay? And it really does get down to how do you want, how are you looking to do as far as keeping people up to date? If you look at pricing, licensing in the traditional, I'm buying it with software assurance and all that kind of thing, over a 6-year period, the price is almost always the same. If you look at a subscription, whether it be a monthly such as this or an annual open value license subscription, the monthly cost almost breaks down to exactly the same. And OEM is always going to be about 20% less, give or take.
When you get something like this and it's not necessarily under your control, you're paying a license for it, are you getting automatic updates as all of their new products come out? Do they automatically update that?
Yes. So the question is whether or not we automatically update and all that fun stuff. Well, first of all, there's going to be patching that's done. On the one side of the fence, we have Microsoft, who's responsible for patching their servers up in the cloud. Okay? And those they will do on a regular basis. Now, when they come out with Exchange 2012 or 2014, there will be a time where they will roll that out. Now, whether they roll it out as now it's Office 365 Mark II or whatever. Now, for an existing BPOS person, there is a migration from BPOS to Office 365. There's no cost, and the monthly fee stays the same. But there are some things that they have to do for their desktops. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So
there are some advantages that, to going out and having to constantly purchase new software to keep your... I'm thinking particularly of MIS. Those people usually need to be up on all of the tools and current on all of the tools so they know what's going on to recommend for the rest of the company.
Yeah. And that's an issue here where you now no longer have to worry about patching or anything on the SharePoint or the Exchange or anything that's being done for you. You don't have to worry about that. And if and when you go through any issues with Office, and the Office is going to be updated and patched by your update services. So however you're patching your desktop, that's going to patch Office as well. So there's nothing different there. The nice thing though is that you know, if you need support or if you have issues, you know how the Exchange server is configured if you talk to support, because it's configured the same way for everybody who's using Office 365. There's one level of configuration. So, yeah.
Other than the Office 365, then everything is based on the cloud, so you really don't download that onto your system.
Correct.
And then that means that when all the I guess, documents in that you have developed, that would also be stored out there as well? Or
You actually have the option of doing both, and we'll talk about that in the demo. So it's a good question. So is everything just stored up in the cloud and that's it? In the case of Outlook, it's stored in your mailbox and it's stored up in the cloud. So you've got both. And in the case of SharePoint, there's a lot of tools, and especially with the latest version, where you can actually store the stuff locally and up in the cloud as well. So we'll go through those
now,
as
if
we
you're
go forward.
running a program like I am, ACT, which isn't a Microsoft product,
Mhm.
the ability then to back up the system, that type of information up there on the Microsoft system available or not?
There's lots of ways to do it. That is not necessarily addressed by this program, though. But there's a bunch of tools that do that, just that.
Okay.
So.
Now, isn't it possible to go ahead and take any documents that you want to archive, because we use it for archiving in our association, to move that up to SharePoint regardless of what product it came from?
Yes, you can do that. I'm not sure I would do that as a backup solution, because
Well, this is just an archiving so that
Right.
we have it accessible to everybody.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So that when they need a document and they're not sure which one it was, and it's no longer on our web page,
Right.
because, that can get overloaded real quick,
Mm-hmm.
we put it up on SharePoint.
Yeah.
For example, I head up the awards committee, and we have to have all of the submissions. We are charged to keep those permanently. So all of the submissions have to be archived. So we put them up on SharePoint, although we also have backups for them, normal backups for them. But it's easier for, like, I will have a predecessor or a successor, and that person needs to know what went on last year, the year before,
Okay.
and so on. So that's how we use it.
Yeah, and that's one of many uses of SharePoint. So
Right.
cool. Okay, let's go back to this guy. So when we talk about this, and yeah, these are marketing slides, deal with it. Best productivity experience ever. So if you're using the full implementation with the SharePoint, you can actually do simultaneous editing, meaning two people are going to edit the same document at the same time for collaboration. That works actually relatively nicely. The whole sharing documents and insights and all that you've got as well. Online meetings, we're going to show that one. Yeah. Access anywhere. So we can get information online or offline. So even if you do not have an internet connection at the time, yeah, you have to configure it ahead of time for this, but you can still use Outlook offline. You can use their SharePoint tools as well. You can get access to your files offline when you don't have internet connection. And then the next time you are online, it will synchronize the changes that have happened both up and down. So you've got that capability. You also have PCs, Macs are fine. Internet Explorer, Firefox, Safari work okay. Outlook web app, you can get your email. One of the other nice things is that now with BPOS, you could get your smart devices could connect relatively well. iPhones, Droids, Windows Mobile were absolutely fine. Blackberries were an additional cost, but you can connect with your Blackberries. Microsoft has since made the BlackBerry service free, so it's no longer an additional charge for BPOS. However, it is not available yet for the Office 365. And this is because RIM has to actually develop it. This is something they have to do. And at this point, they're saying towards the end of the year. So Office 365 will not work seamlessly with BlackBerries until towards the end of the year. Okay, one key thing. Okay. Oops. Okay, let's actually look at the bloody thing, shall we? Here we have, this is the administrator screen. So we're talking more from the person who would administer all of the issues, all of the pieces, parts, all that good fun stuff. And fairly straightforward. Here's all the information. Here's a bunch of help, all that fun stuff. I'm going to add a new user. And we'll just call this Test Puppy. Test Puppy. And that's going to be their email address. Do you want them to be administrator? Nope. And they are in the United States. And what do we want them to have? We're going to give them access to that. Okay. Send the results in the email, sure. Done. That's all we had to do. So we now have a new email address. We now have a new email account. That person now has the ability, depending upon what we give them the rights to access their email, SharePoint, link, all that good fun stuff. That's all that needs to be done. You can also, if you have a lot of people to add, you can create an Excel file and just import the Excel file right there. Boom, done. Okay? Fairly straightforward. And here are the users that we have. And at any point in time, I can go ahead and modify them, maintain them, do anything I want to them. So let's say, for example, Bob. Here's the settings that we've got for them. Make changes for their email. I'm probably going to get an error on that. Yep. This is how much of the mailbox is being used, so I can go in and somebody says, hey, I'm using too much, I'm getting errors or whatever. We can see how much mailbox they've got. I can go ahead and add contact information if I want to. Information about the organization. I also want aliases, which means if somebody sends an email to HR@Simplex-IT, it goes to my mailbox. Same thing, so it's easy to maintain those. What kind of roles? Yeah, mail tips if I want to. I can start doing archiving or litigation hold. And these are features that I have not looked into a whole heck of a lot, but it's basically ways so that you can, as administrator, create some rules as far as what people can or can't delete. Okay? And phone and voice. Exchange ActiveSync, we're doing that, but unified messaging, which would be where we have a phone system that integrates with it. This will integrate with unified messaging now. Fairly straightforward. Okay? Now, if you're a small organization or you don't have a lot of that experience or whatever, yeah, okay. But most of these you don't need. It's only going to be under certain circumstances because you need something to happen for a particular user or users or the like.